until they'd stopped. Joan breathed in now, letting the cold air catch in her lungs. None of that had happened, she reminded herself. Gran and the rest of the Hunts were in London, just an hour away by train. They were fine. Joan messaged Dad back. "Looks great. Be home soon." Then she shoved her hands into her pockets. It was getting colder. Above, the sky was heavy with darkening clouds. There was a storm coming. She fought the wind as she crossed the field. Her hair whipped around her face and her blue blazer billowed. She shouldn't have stayed back for that glimpse of Nick. Seeing him, being unseen by him, had thrown her back into that first shock of being in the world without him. There was no place or time she could go to find him. He was gone. Lightning flashed and the air sharpened. Joan walked faster, absently counting the seconds. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Thunder rolled at the count of 5. The storm was maybe 15 minutes away. She shrugged out of her blazer and shoved it into her bag. She didn't mind the rain, but she only had the one school blazer, and she didn't fancy wearing it again tomorrow, damp. She was near the gates when the next flash of lightning came. 1 1,000, 2. A familiar voice sounded behind her, startling her. "Excuse me, The rest of his words were drowned out by thunder. Joan's heartbeat sounded even louder in her ears. Nick. It wasn't him, she told herself. She was just hearing what she wanted to hear. But when she turned, it was Nick, alone on the field with her, his pace easy and smooth, as familiar as his voice. His dark hair was cut differently now, swept over his brow, but his eyes were just as they'd always been, as sincere and honest as an old-fashioned hero, the kind who rescued cats from trees and people from burning buildings. For a moment, Joan could almost imagine it really was him, her Nick, with all his memories intact, coming after her because he'd remembered her. Her feelings were a tangled skein of trepidation, fear, and a horrible hope. He stopped, just out of arm's reach. Joan hadn't been this close to him since the night in the library when they'd kissed. That night, the other Nick's existence had ended. No, she corrected herself. That night, she'd ended him. She'd chosen her family over him. Monsters over a hero. Whatever was on her face, it made Nick's expression change to apology. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you." He held out her phone. "I saw you drop this back there." Joan searched his face. Now that he was closer, she couldn't fool herself. He was looking right at her, and there was no recognition in his eyes at all. This version of him even held himself differently. The other Nick had carried himself with a certain dangerous tension, the understanding that he might have to fight and kill. This Nick's stance was open and untrained. Joan should have felt relieved, she knew, but she was hit with an ache of grief like a physical wound. She accepted the phone from him, trying not to feel anything when his fingers brushed hers. "Thank you," she heard herself say. Nick smiled, small and so familiar that Joan could hardly bear it. "I'm always losing mine," he said. "Really?" Joan was surprised into asking. He'd always been careful with details. She'd never known him to lose anything. "Well," Nick's smile warmed into something more relaxed than Joan had ever seen on him. "Really, my little brothers are always stealing it." "Brothers?" Joan echoed. She heard the wonder in her own voice. His brothers were alive. Joan had known it, but somehow hearing him say it felt like a miracle. The Nick she'd known had been tortured over and over, his whole family murdered in front of him. Joan had seen the recordings. She'd never forget them, not 1 second of them, all those bodies on the kitchen floor. "Brothers and sisters," Nick said, still smiling. "6 of us, if you can believe it." And Joan heard